You wake up one day and realize mercy has become your poison. The softness you wear, like a badge, has begun to rot. Your kindness, a leash. Your silence, a noose. The world still turns, the walls still stand, and the clock still ticks. But you no longer feel the rhythm in your chest. You breathe, but it's mechanical. You smile, but it's rehearsed. There's a stillness in you, but not the kind that soothes. It's the kind that chokes. You move through the hours like a ghost in borrowed skin, dragging a version of yourself that's been too afraid to break anything, even the lies that are killing you. The lights in the kitchen are still warm, the dishes still dry, the phone still buzzes, but you are miles beneath all of it. You sit beside yourself like a stranger, wondering how long you've been pretending to be okay, wondering when the pretending became your personality. There's a whisper in your gut, almost too quiet to hear. This isn't who I am. And it's true. You were born with fire, but they taught you it was dangerous. You were born with thunder, but they told you to speak softer, smile nicer, forgive quicker, give more. And now you don't know where your edge went. Only that. You're bleeding without being touched. There's a cold ache inside your bones that no blanket can touch. You give and give and give until there's nothing left but silence. Until you realize you've been bargaining with ghosts, seeking approval from people who wouldn't bleed for you, shrinking so they could feel taller, and calling it love. But what if love should have burned? What if kindness without boundaries is just slow self-destruction? Why do you feel like you're missing something you never had? Why do you lie awake at night wondering, why can't I just be enough? Why does it hurt more to speak your truth than to swallow it? And why does your body feel like it's storing screams you were never allowed to voice? You weren't born this way. You became this over time, through compromise, through micro-abandonments, through the 1,000 silent moments you betrayed yourself just to be accepted. You see, no one ever says die to yourself. They just reward the one who does. And so you wither, quietly, elegantly, until your needs become background noise and your dreams become someday. You watch your life shrink into tasks, texts, and obligations, and wonder why you're still starving inside. Is this all there is? Is this what we're supposed to call a life? Wake, work, numb, repeat, perform kindness, swallow rage, apologize for being too loud, too honest, too real. Is this maturity? Is this what they meant by growing up? Because if it is, why does it feel like decay? Why does it feel like your soul is knocking from the inside, begging you to wake? Up, the calendar becomes a cage. Each Monday looks like a copy of last week's failure. You check the days off like a prisoner tracking time. Morning coffee, screen glow, polite replies, artificial laughter, scroll, sleep, repeat. Drifting. Waiting. Postponing. Every morning you put on the same mask, one made of productivity and smiles, but behind it your spirit is howling. You hear it when you're alone, that small voice whispering, I can't do this anymore. Not because you're weak, but because you've been too strong for too long in a life that doesn't feed you. They told you discipline meant sacrifice, but they forgot to say what happens when sacrifice becomes identity. When you give so much you forget what it feels like to receive. When being good means becoming invisible, you followed the script, you obeyed, you disappeared. Nietzsche believed the herd instinct was the death of the soul. He said that the ones who walk alone often walk ahead. But no one tells you how lonely it feels to unlearn what kept you safe. No one tells you that healing sometimes feels like heresy, that the moment you choose truth over tradition, you lose the crowd. Carl Jung once wrote, the unlived life is buried in the shadow. And maybe that's what this ache is, your shadow. mourning all the parts of you you never let live. The wild dot, the fierce, the unfiltered dot, the unforgiving, the you that says no without guilt, the you that doesn't flinch when choosing herself, you that burns bridges to keep her soul warm. Søren Kierkegaard said, "The greatest danger, that of losing oneself, can occur very quietly in the world, as if it were nothing at all." And that's the tragedy. You didn't lose yourself all at once. You lost yourself in pieces, tiny, polite, well-behaved pieces. But here's the secret the world never taught you. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the proof you're still alive. That ache you feel, that restless hunger, is your soul screaming, "Wake up"? The guilt? That means you still care. The boredom? That's your potential rotting in silence. The resentment? That's your truth trying to surface through the cracks. You are not broken, you are just buried. Buried under years of roles you were never meant to play. Buried under approval, over-explaining, and biting your tongue just to keep the peace. But peace bought with silence is a war on the inside. The war is over now, no more mercy for the lies that softened you into submission, no more tolerance for. The masks that muted your magic, no more saving people who wouldn't even notice if you disappeared. This is not about revenge, it's about resurrection. You don't need a full map, just one honest choice, just one real step. Say no without explaining, tell the truth, even if your voice tremble, stand up even if your legs shake, the revolution doesn't start with shouting. It starts with clarity, with no longer asking for permission to exist. You are not lazy. You are spiritually starving. And the hunger you feel, that's divine. That's sacred. That's your rebirth. You are not meant to live soft and invisible. You are fire, wrapped in skin. You are thunder learning to walk as a woman. You are the mirror they fear because it reflects everything they pretend not to feel. You are not weak. Arising, look at yourself now, not with shame, but with sacred eyes. The mirror doesn't lie. There's a flicker in your gaze that wasn't there before. You've buried so much, but not everything dies. The truth is still alive. And you are still here. Your regrets are not your ruin. They are your reminders. Reminders that you care, that you feel, that you remember. Remember who you were before the world told you to dim. She's still inside. The story isn't over. Is still in your hand, no more mercy. Only truth, only fire, only everything you were born to become. But here's the part they never warned you about. Healing doesn't feel like light. At first, it feels like fire, like loss, like betrayal of everything you once believed was good. Because the version of you they loved was a version that served them, not you. And so you grieve. You grieve the masks. You grieve the way you made yourself smaller in rooms that didn't deserve your presence. You grieve the ease with which they took, and the shame that came when you asked for anything in return. You grieve the days you woke up and made it through without ever once asking yourself if you even wanted to. And then, like a storm that finally breaks the drought, you begin to feel again. Not joy, not yet, but anger. Raw, sacred, clarifying anger. The kind of anger that doesn't burn others. It burns the lie. The kind that rips the wallpaper off your life and shows you the cracks in the foundation. The kind that says, no more false peace, no more pretending. Because the person you were pretending to be was never meant to survive. The truth is, you didn't lose your strength. You gave it away. Piece by piece, smile by smile. Yes, after exhausting yes. You handed it over in exchange for crumbs of validation until you forgot what it felt like to belong to yourself. But something ancient is rising now. Something older than apology, stronger than shame. Call it soul, call it shadow, Call it the version of you that never learned to kneel. You've mistaken mercy for love. But real love doesn't ask you to disappear. And now you see it don't. You, the way your body has been screaming truths your mind refused to hear. The stomach aches before certain conversations. The fatigue that wasn't physical, but existential. The way your chest felt like a locked room. That was never laziness. That was your intuition begging you to get out. Begging you to stop betraying yourself for belonging. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to break the pattern. You can't fix your life by adjusting your mask. You fix it by removing it. By facing the raw, unscripted self beneath. The one who isn't perfect, but is real. And when you begin to speak from that place, even if your voice cracks, even if your hands shake, even if no one claps, that is when you become unstoppable. You will lose people. Yes, but you will lose the wrong people. And you will find something far greater. Yourself. The ache you feel at night. That emptiness that wraps around your ribcage like a fog. That's not failure. That's the gap between who you are and who you were trained to be. You are not bored. You are misaligned. You are not tired. You are uninspired. There's a version of you waiting beyond this numbness. A you that doesn't apologize for taking up space. A you that doesn't shrink when someone else is uncomfortable. A you that walks into rooms and doesn't check who might disapprove. That you is not a fantasy. She is buried beneath the layers of should. Should be quieter. Should be nicer. Should be less. And what happens when you remove the should? You remember. You remember that fire is not cruelty. That truth is not betrayal. That leaving people who only love the watered-down version of you is not selfish. It's necessary. No more mercy for the habits that dulled your light. No more patience for the voices in your head that echo with doubt that isn't even yours. No more compromise with the patterns that kept you tame. The cage is open, but only you can choose to leave it. You don't need to become fearless. You only need to become honest. You've spent your whole life being strong in the way others defined it. Swallowing pain, holding everyone else together, never complaining, and calling that strength. But what if real strength is saying no without guilt? What if real strength is crying without shame? What if real strength is saying, I matter too? So go ahead. Cry for the years you lost. Rage for the boundaries you never set. Mourn the versions of you who didn't know better. But then rise. Not with vengeance, not with bitterness, but with clarity. No more mercy for the version of you that lived for others. It's time for truth. It's time for fire. It's time for the version of you that chooses herself. Because this isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of your return. And the world has no idea who it's about to meet. You are never broken, just buried. Beneath expectation, beneath fear, beneath the weight of a world that punishes depth and worships performance. They taught you how to survive, but not how to feel. They taught you how to please, but not how to live. And now, after years of wearing masks, the skin underneath has become sensitive, tender, new. Hungry. It hurts not because you're weak. It hurts because you're waking up. And awakening feels like grieving. Grieving the time you spent asleep. Dreams they sold you were never yours. The goals you chased, the degrees, the titles, the image, were maps drawn by hands that never asked where your soul wanted to go. And now the compass inside you is spinning, spinning, spinning. Because it's no longer pointing north. It's pointing inward. You see it now, don't you? The routine was the sedative. Same bed, same alarm, same coffee, same silence. Days repeating like a film stuck on loop. You kept hitting play, hoping something would feel different. But the script never changed, because you never did. You told yourself you were just tired. But it wasn't exhaustion. It was suppression. Suppression of your art, your truth, your voice, your rage. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life, and you will call it fate." And now you are staring at the pieces of fate, of choice, of the you who waited behind every compromise. You weren't lazy. You were disconnected. Disconnected from the wild self. The one who dances barefoot in the soul's fire. The one who speaks like thunder and loves like oceans. They didn't kill your dreams. They just convinced you they were impractical. And so you buried them. But now they are rising again. Like seeds that refuse to die, even in the soil of silence. You don't need motivation. You need permission to stop shrinking, to stop settling, to stop pretending this version of you is the final draft, because you were not born to be palatable. You were born to be whole. And wholeness includes the parts they told you to hide. That fire in your chest, it's not anxiety. It's the friction between your soul and the life you were never meant to live. That tightness in your throat, it's all the truth you swallowed when you said, "I'm fine," and that ache behind your eyes. It's the weight of 1,000 unshed tears for the self you abandoned to survive. But survival is not the goal anymore. You've mastered that. Now it's time to feel, to breathe without fear, to exist without explanation, to rebuild without apology. You are allowed to want more. You are allowed to start over. You are allowed to walk away from anything that makes your soul whisper, "This isn't it." Because that whisper, that's God's voice in your bones. The world doesn't need more obedient shells. It needs awakened souls. And you are one decision away, not a leap, not a revolution, just one real choice, one moment of honesty, one act of courage so small, it almost feels insignificant. But it isn't. It's the crack in the dam, the shiver before the avalanche, the whisper before the roar. You think you're behind, but you're exactly on time. The delay was never failure. It was preparation. Not every breakdown was breaking you open. Every heartbreak was pulling you inward. Every silence was planting a seed dot, and now it's blooming. Quietly, relentlessly, you will not be the same. You cannot be the same, because something ancient in you has remembered who you were before the world told you who to be. And when you look in the mirror now, you might not recognize the face, but the eyes. The eyes are beginning to burn again, with truth, with hunger, with holy untamed fire. No more mercy for the patterns that dim you. No more tolerance for narratives that cage you. No more endurance for mediocrity dressed as security. It ends here. This is your lying in the sand. This is your death of the false self. This is your return. You are not lost. You are becoming. And when they ask what happened to you, tell them, I stopped pretending. I stopped performing. I stopped betraying myself for love. Tell them, I chose my soul over their comfort. Tell them, I finally remembered who I am. You don't need anyone to give you permission anymore. That version of you, the one who waited for approval, waited for signs, waited for someone to say, yes, you're allowed to be free. She's gone. You buried her the moment you opened your eyes and realized, this life is mine. And when the silence comes, not the hollow kind, but the sacred kind, you'll hear something you forgot how to listen for. Yourself, not the self shaped by roles and routines, but the raw, divine essence that existed before a single label touched your skin, before your name became a brand, before your voice was filtered for acceptability. She is still in there, and she is not quiet anymore. She is rising, with dust on her knees and fire in her lungs. Not perfect, but real. You've played the part long enough. The good girl, the responsible one, the one who sacrifices, the one who endures, the one who nods through insult, smiles through sorrow, and shrinks herself to fit in places never built to hold her truth. But not anymore, because mercy, when misplaced, becomes self-betrayal, and you've run out of space to abandon yourself. You've run out of time to make excuses for people who only loved the fragments of you that served their comfort. This is where it ends. And this is where it begins. You thought you were collapsing, but you were shedding the bones of the mask, the language of compliance, the rhythm of a life that never felt like yours. And now you're lighter, not because the burden left, but because you stopped calling it yours. This is the birth of truth. And truth is not gentle. It is a blade. It is a flood. It is a mirror that shows you all the ways you left yourself behind and all the ways you're coming back home. Yes, it's lonely here. The path of awakening always is, because the ones who sleep will not understand the fire in your eyes. They'll call it anger. They'll call it arrogance. They'll say you've changed, and you have. Because what is healing, if not rebellion against every version of you that was forged in fear? You'll walk away from people you once begged to stay. You'll say no with a voice that used to shake. You'll stare into the faces of those who manipulated you, and you'll feel nothing. Not hate, not revenge, just clarity, because you finally realized it was never your job to carry their wounds. It was never your role to earn your right to exist. It was never your task to keep breaking yourself into pieces, just to be digestible. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And now you know what that means. It's not a slogan. It's not an aesthetic. It's a war. A quiet daily war between the false self and the soul. Between the you who wants to be loved and the you who refuses to be controlled. Between the comfort of pretending and the chaos of becoming. And in this war, you don't fight with fists. You fight with awareness, with silence, with choices so honest, they terrify the parts of you still begging to be liked. Drifting, waiting, postponing. That was the rhythm of your unconscious life. But not anymore. Now you rise. Now you walk through the fire without asking if anyone will hold your hand, because the only hand you ever needed was the one you kept hiding behind. Your own. So pick up the pen, pick up the brush, pick up the dream that scared you into paralysis, and begin again. Not because you're unworthy, but because you're unfinished. You are not broken clay. You are unformed lightning, a force that only needed space to remember its shape. And when the world asks why you're so hard to define now, why you don't play by their rules, why your silence feels louder than your words, tell them, I erased my weakness. Not by rejecting it, but by facing it, by holding it, by understanding it, and then choosing to no longer be governed by it. Tell them, I stopped bleeding for people who weren't wounded. Tell them, I stopped being merciful to the version of me that kept me small. And when you look in the mirror next, really look. Don't search for flaws. Search for the flicker, the ember, the ghost of the fire you buried long ago. It's back now. You're back now. Not louder, but truer. Not perfect, but sacred. And the story isn't over. The ink is wet. The page is yours. And this time, the pen is steady in your hand. So here you are, staring into the mirror, not for vanity, not for shame, but for remembrance. And maybe for the first time you see her, the real you, not the polished, rehearsed version, not the one who knows how to smile through burnout, but the you who is done pretending. Look into her eyes. Do you see it? That flicker of rebellion? That soft, almost imperceptible glow behind the exhaustion? That's not burnout. That's resurrection. You are not your past. You are not your pain. You are not the echo of who they wanted you to be. You are the pause between destruction and rebirth, the space between silence and scream, the breath before a decision that rewrites everything. And here's the truth. If you're still aching, it means you still care. If you're still restless, it means the dream isn't dead. And if something inside you whispered, "This message was for me," then it was. Regret is not weakness. It is the evidence that your soul is still reaching for the life you know is yours. So what now? Now you return, not to the world, to yourself. You pick up what you left behind, the art, the fire, the voice, the tears, and you let them be part of your truth. You stop waiting for clarity to come like lightning, and you start moving with the storm. You don't need a 5-year plan. You need a 5-second act of truth. You don't need applause. You need peace. You don't need more time. You need to stop postponing your soul. The world will still turn. The emails will still arrive. The clock will keep ticking. But you are not a machine. You are the thunder they told to be quiet. And now you roar. So if this found you in a moment of stillness, or sorrow, or surrender, know this: you didn't find it. It found you. And that means you're ready. The mercy you once gave to others, give it to the version of you that tried her best to survive. Then let her go, and step forward with no script, no apology, no more hiding. Because the story isn't over. The pen is still in your hand. And this time, you write it awake. If you felt this, it means you're not alone. Subscribe, not for a channel, but for reminders like this, that you're still here, still human, still becoming. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most sacred rebellion of all.